Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I got an early start on the temple this morning. I cemented the last head on, which is this one here. That was my worst face that I cast, the one that was kind of wide, and I cast this one in sections. I did a little carving with the X-Acto knife up here, and I kind of like that. So I'm going to continue doing more carving on these faces to kind of unify them a bit. This one's kind of plain up top here. But I think overall, this is just one part of the temple. And I think, you know, when you get the whole temple built, you won't focus on one piece quite so much. But I think it looks good. So today I'm going to cast the top for it. And I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to build it out of plasticine because it kind of has a... It transitions from a square to a round shape up top, and it kind of steps in. So it's almost like a pyramid. And then the faces kind of continue up into it. This headdress is quite elaborate and fancy and goes quite high. So I'm going to try modeling it out of plasticine. And then I'm going to put the plasticine outside in the cold to make it really cold. And then I'm going to try a warm plasticine mold around the cold plasticine, try and remove it, and then make a cement casting of what I've got. I don't know if it'll work. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, I can build it up in sections, but I'll try it. So here I go. And I've noticed these pyramids, they don't come to a sharp corner. They kind of, if I can demonstrate here, let me just get another corner. They tend to come like this. So kind of a... There's a space there. I don't know if that block's fallen out or what, but I've noticed that on quite a few of them. I don't know if I want to do that though. I think I want to bring them out. I think it's just blocks that have fallen down or something. It's hard to... It's such a complex shape that it's really hard to see what the actual structure looks like. I examine all the photos and I look at them and yeah, it's really hard to know exactly what these temples look like because there's so many pieces and they're so complicated. I'm almost done rolling out my big strip here. So just a few more passes with the roller. And I think it'll be ready to cut up. Okay, that's good. All right, so there's my basic block size. So I'll cut a square end on it. Like that. And then I can continue fitting up the blocks to the top here. All right, let's see now. This piece has to come here. So we'll cut that off right about here, like that, and then I need a little short piece to go in between here to about there. So that can go in there, just like that. I'm stepping back, having a look at the pyramid on top, and I think it's too steep. It tapers in too quickly. So I think I'm going to have to make the overlap a little less on each section. So I'll fix that up. I fixed up the base. You can see how little overlap I have now. It's, what is it? It's about 3 or 4 millimeters. Yeah, I always check back with the reference material. I was looking at the photographs again last night. You know, just like your trees, you have to constantly be looking at photos. Yeah, always be looking at your reference photos for trees and temples. That's looking much better. Here's a look at the pyramid now, and I'm getting the proportions better. I'm glad I did this because I would have made it totally wrong if I hadn't sculpted it out of plasticine first. So I'm going to do the same technique, casting it in layers. I'm going to abandon that technique of, taking a plasticine cast of a plasticine mold. I'm just going to use this for my proportions and lay it out exactly the same way I did my lower structure. So I'll cast it one layer at a time. So I'm going to model in the transition between the heads and the top here now, and maybe even the circular part up top. So I don't want this to go too high. Like in real life on the temples, they have a really fancy kind of crown to the top of it. And I'll have part of that, but I can't build it up too high or this thing will just get too heavy. And yeah, it'll get just too large. For the transition between the head and this upper part, I'm going to mold it out of plasticine, and for this one I will try cooling it down and making a mold off the plasticine. And then once I have one cast in cement, I can use that for my mold to make the other 4 or the other 3. So yeah, that's what I'll do. I just went in and checked my reference photos again. I'm on the right ballpark here with this kind of tapering up, and it kind of rounds on the front face. So yeah, so I'll cast that. I've got to put all my fancy patterns in it, get it the exact shape. I'll pull this off and I'll try and make a mold of this plasticine. I'm not sure if it'll work, but we'll try it. I've got my Bushman's Pal made in Sheffield, England, to help me carve the right contours on this piece. It works really nicely. I finished modeling, roughing in the shape of the headdress up here. I don't know what it's called, but and yeah, I've got it so it kind of tapers up. It tapers in a bit at the top. And I've been looking at the reference photos, and that's what I see. And again, it's very hard to tell because it's ancient stone and it's hard to tell what it originally looked like. But this is my best guess. So now I've got to carve all the fancy patterns in here. So I'll do that next. The top part here is based on the dancer's headdress. And I'll show you some photos of that. It's kind of like a crown, and then there's 3 circular pieces, 2 and then 1 at the top. And it varies. I'll show you a few photographs now. So that was a look at, what this is based on. And so now I've got to make this in plasticine. I was looking around for pieces of old toys, and I found this, which has some nice textures on it. And this, there's a little flower. I've got some chess pieces I could push in for maybe columns or something. So I'll try and use these on my headpiece up there. See if I can use some of these textures. I'll just push them into the plasticine and hopefully it'll work. I'm going to start with this fancy piece here. That would look kind of cool up there. So I'm going to try and get that texture in there. So I'll line it up. And push it in. Roll it around. All right, let's see. Well, that's not bad. A bit of fixing up. Put my round parts in it. Yeah, that'll look good. I raided the kids' room once again, and I found a few items that might be useful. Gotta make an imprint, a round one for my round sections. This has got interesting texture. A little turtle might work. So I'll try that in the end of a marker. So I'll try those, see if they work. I've got the upper portion all textured, and I think it's looking good. I'm going to take it off now and put it outside in the cold, chill it down, and then I'm going to try and make a plasticine mold of a plasticine piece. And we'll see how it works. So here I go. While the headpiece is chilling outside, I'm going to start molding the upper pyramid part. And I won't show you that because it's going to be exactly the same as the sections I made for the base of the column. So I'll just take it off and we'll separate the pieces. And I'm just using it as a dimensional guide. I've got the mold all ready to pour. So the dimensions are based on the top piece. So I just put the form around the top piece. So I'll cast that, and then I'll go on to the middle one, and then the largest one. I should be able to get all those done today. I've been thinking about this plasticine mold of a plasticine piece. I don't know if it'll work. I'll try it with a little bit of soft plasticine, squish it onto the hard piece that's outside, see if it makes an imprint and if I can separate it. I'm thinking maybe a cement mold would be better, building up a frame and putting the piece down and then casting a mold around it. I think that would work quite well, as long as I put some Vaseline on the cement to kind of separate the piece that I cast. And then I can pull a mold off of that and then cast my cement pieces from that. It's kind of a lot of work, but I think it's the only way it'll work really well. I'll try. I'm going to go outside and I've got some plasticine I'm warming up in my hand here. It's quite soft. I'm going to try pressing it on the piece that's outside and see if it molds to the shape of it, see if it separates, and if it does, I'll try it. But if it's not looking like it's going to work, I'll try a cement casting of it. I went outside and I tried that technique. Here's my piece. I pushed the plasticine into the mold, and to make a good impression, you have to squish it so hard that it starts to deform the original piece. So that's definitely not going to work. It gets harder outside, but not real hard. And a lot of oils are like that. They don't really get, solid like a rock or anything. So I will have to cast this piece in cement, make a mold. That's going to be tricky, but I can do it. I've got my third part of the pyramid, the largest one, cast now. So that makes all three of them done. So that's kind of good. And it's still daylight. I'm going to start on making that headpiece now. I'm starting to make the mold for the headpiece. So I'll fill it in under here. And when I cast it in cement, I'll just make kind of a thin shell. And then I'll fill it in behind to fit it to the existing piece. So I think that'll work okay. So I'll just add like plasticine here so the cement doesn't go underneath. I've got my headpiece surrounded by a wall, so I can pour my concrete in here, and I'll have to make sure it's quite liquidy to fill in all these little fine details. And that will be my mold, and then I can cast the pieces for my, 4 of them, and hopefully it'll work out. I'll have to brush the mold with like Vaseline or something so the cement doesn't stick to the concrete mold. So anyway, I'll fill it in with cement now. All right, I've got a good runny mixture here, so I'll start pouring it in over the mold like that. Hopefully it's got the shape of the headpiece. I've got my 3 pieces for the pyramid out of the molds. I stacked them on top of the existing structure. While my mold is drying here, I'll go on to finishing these pieces, just filing them square, getting rid of all the edges that from the casting, just kind of cleaning them up. Working on these pieces just after they've come out of the mold is the best time. They slowly harden, as I said. So right now they're pretty soft and you can file them quite easily. But if I left it another day or two, they would be hard as a rock. So best to work on your cement pieces right away. My pyramid pieces are all ready to be cemented on top. All right, I've pre-wet all my surfaces. they're soaked, I'll put a thin layer of cement on each surface. So here I go, being careful not to put too much on because these are pyramid shaped and they kind of don't cover the whole surface. All right, so I can put cement on the bottom here now. This piece is just out of the mold, so it's still very soft. So really easy to file when they're soft like that. Okay, here I go. Lining it up. Like that. Make sure it's square when viewed from above. Lined up perfectly. Yeah, that's about it. That's got it. Everything is drying now. I've got my pyramid drying. I've got my mold for my headpieces drying. And I'm getting low on hydraulic cement, so I'm going to have to go out to the store and buy another tub of that today. For all you space fans out there, the Perseverance rover is going to land on Mars tomorrow afternoon. And it's the twin of the Curiosity rover. And it has a little helicopter that can take off from the rover and fly above the Martian surface. So it's going to be really cool. You can watch it live. You can live stream it on YouTube. And that's what I'll be doing tomorrow afternoon, watching it land. So it's going to be really exciting. Tonight we have the Kitchener-Waterloo Bonsai Society online meeting. So I'm going to have to end the video now because I've got to edit it and post it tonight. And I have the meeting tonight. So again, a bit of a cliffhanger ending because I've got my mold over here that's still drying. And hopefully it'll turn out. So we'll see tomorrow. That's all from the construction site of my new Prohm temple I'm building. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me today in the Bonsai Zone.